What's going on, NuCanoe Nation? Boys and girls, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another Unlimited podcast. We're here every Tuesday night, 7 Central, 8 Eastern, 5 o'clock out on the West Coast. Do us a favor, go down in that lower left-hand corner, hit that share button, drop in the comments where you're tuning in from, what kind of kayak you're floating out of. We don't even care if it's not a NuCanoe. We got Beach Basement Kayaks in the house tonight. We're going to be talking with Mark Boland down there. They're doing some cool stuff. Got a bunch of photos to share with you guys on some of the cool things they're doing, rigging up some new canoes and stuff like that. We'll get a little background on their shop, how they got started, and all that good stuff. River Wolf update. I saw an update. He is doing well. Had a few struggles, but getting back over them. They're talking about possibly getting him back home soon. So hopefully, all your prayers, thoughts, and positive vibes are working. Shout out to our brother River Wolf out there. He's doing some good things. I know today on the NuCanoe page and the YouTube page, there was a video dropped with our very own Everett Park and Eddie McRae fishing one of the rivers there in Georgia, the Flint River, with the Seek One guys. Huge fan of Seek One. Got a Seek One shirt on right now. So go check that out, man. It's a cool little video. I'm sure you guys will enjoy it. So let's get the man of the hour in the house, Mr. Mark Boland. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, Mark.
You're pronouncing it right.
All right, perfect, man. Beach Basement Kayaks. You guys are located down in Florida on the what do you guys call it?
Nature Coast,
The Nature Coast.
Just south of Crystal River. By the way, great to hear about River Wolf.
Yeah, no, thank you, man. Thank you.
I look forward to hearing from you every time you have a broadcast about him. It sounded like he was a goner.
Yeah, super dude. Mark, you may want to move your microphone a little bit. It sounds like it's muffled a little bit.
Is that better?
There you go. A lot better. I want you sounding crisp and clear for the good folks, my friend. No, it's River Wolf has been a legend in the NuCanoe family, man, and it's good to hear he's doing better. I know he's been doing a bunch of rehab. He's been walking on his own, things like that. Still using some oxygen, but it's always good to hear that he's doing better, man. So I appreciate the thoughts and the kind words, man. So let's start off, man. Let's get a little background on you and how you became a NuCanoe dealer or a kayak dealer in general.
We moved from Tennessee, where we were living out in the sticks on 34 acres in the middle of literally nowhere. Back to the St. Pete area, and the first kayak I bought was a, what's it called? It was called a Future Beach. You got a picture of that? I got to show that one.
Yeah, I'll bring that up here.
Because everybody talks about the Unlimiteds being a barge. I paid $1,000 for that kayak, I don't know, about 15 years ago. And I caught a lot of fish on it. A 4-mile trip, you can take it away now. A 4-mile trip in that kayak was a meaningful ride. But anyway, had never fished in Florida. Had lived here for quite a while, but never really fished to where I caught fish. And we moved in right inside Johns Pass, and the fishing was just amazing. Johns Pass is inside St. Petersburg, Florida, which is just an exceptional place to live and fish. But anyway, went from that to getting in an auto accident, was selling high-end RVs at that point, or at least prior to the auto accident, and couldn't work. Bought a feel-free kayak after moving to Homosassa, completely disabled. Can you bring that picture up?
Sure.
I
got it here.
And it was a feel-free Corona, I think. This was the first one, and back then, I didn't know about, this was probably 7 years ago, I didn't know about any kayaks that had motors on them. I couldn't paddle because of a back injury. Had a buddy who was the service manager for a company called Lazy Days RV, and he rigged that up, took the top off of a 35-pound thrust Newport Vessels, mounted it right up where the seat was, and then we actually ran PVC, and I don't know if you can really see it too well in that picture, but I was able to steer and power that kayak and be out on the water for, at least 3 or 4 hours. It was a cool little kayak.
Nice.
But anyway, after that, we started, we were basically retired during then. After 3 or 4 years of being retired, we got really bored and started buying and selling kayaks. In a 2-year period, I cannot tell you how many kayaks came through here. Hold on a second.
You need to switch headphones. Your sound is horrible.
Okay, evidently my sound's bad. I'm switching headphones.
Turn this one on. Get it hooked up.
It's always something, man. You gotta love.
No.
You gotta love technology these days, boys and girls. We'll let Mark get adjusted there real quick, but man, the old school kayaks, it's something unique.
Are you there?
Yeah, we got you.
Yeah,
Man.
sorry. Yeah, sorry. But anyway, I got, after like 3 or 4 years of being retired, doing nothing, paying all the time, I saw on Craigslist that there was an abundance. This was before COVID. There was just a huge number of kayaks that folks were selling pre-owned. And in a
Sure.
2-year period, I have no idea how many kayaks we bought and sold. And we were doing really well. And that was a great experience because you name the kayak, about the only thing that didn't go through here was a Jackson and a Native, maybe. 3 Hobies, had a couple of had several Malibus, a Malibu Stealth 12 and a Malibu 14. But I don't really want to go into detail on all of those kayaks. But
Sure.
again, what that provided for us is we had an opportunity to really try out every single kayak that was out there. I saw a video while I was on YouTube figuring out how to fix something. I think it was like welding the crack in the kayak. And I see this video of this heavy guy standing towards the bow, fly fishing. And I really thought at that point that the video was a put on, because I had a Stealth 14 at that point. It had 2 little like foot pads that you could stand up on, but there was no way you could stand near the bow and sideways and fly fish. Well, watched the video, realized there really was a kayak that you could stand in. Ended up talking to the factory, and the person I was talking to was Blake. And Blake said to me, well, you're already buying and selling kayaks. We're looking for a dealer, Florida Nature Coast, and that's how we became a dealer.
That's super cool, man, and it's very unique too that you guys were kind of in the used market, so to speak, and you went through so many different boats. Because I mean, in my personal experience, you get a lot of customers that ask you about, well, how does that compare to this boat, that boat? How is this drive compared to that drive, and so on and so forth. So you kind of got that education before you became a formal quote unquote dealer, which is super cool and unique in its own way.
Yeah, it's called learning by the by gosh, by golly method. One of the things that bugs me a little bit is I hear on Facebook in the last 6 months or so, there's been, ever since COVID hit, there's a lot of people that have made comments, not only about NuCanoes. You'll see the same thing on Hobie's page and everybody. I think a lot of the concern with kayaks and flex and decks and things like that, really, in my opinion, has to do with people that have never been in a kayak before and they're not used to it. I dug this up when I was installing a pivot drive on the kayak behind you that you can't see. But this is a sample out of a unlimited that came through here last shipment. I measured the thickness. It's a little over. It's in between an 1/8 and a 1/4, and it has some flex. If I really bend this, I can get some flex in it. See that? Well,
Sure.
if you go 41 inches, you're going to get some flex. I remember when I was selling boats, the same thing that they were making fuel tanks out of in a lot of boats were the same material. And you'd see 100-gallon, 150-gallon tanks that were some of them 60 inches wide, and you get a lot of flex in the middle of them. Didn't mean that fuel tank on the boat was bad. It meant that it was 60-inch wide, and it was made out of the same material.
Sure.
We've had a lot of kayaks go through here and have never had an issue with them. I think one of the things that is so funny when you see comments on Facebook, there was one on there about a week ago, and it showed this guy pushing on the hull of a kayak. Looked like he was about a 200-pound guy, and he's standing like that, pushing and getting a little bit of flex. You put a 200-pound guy on the hull of any kayak, and you're going to get some flex. Doesn't matter whether it's a Frontier 12 or a Hobie or whatever. We had 3 Hobies that went through here. And I messed up a few kayaks. When we first started buying and selling, I came home after a long trip with a couple of Hobies that were used, left one over the tailgate of my pickup truck. It was a hot day, middle of the summer. Came out the following afternoon, looked at that Hobie, and it was drooping over the back of the pickup tailgate like this. I thought I had ruined it. Well, laid it down a couple days, popped right back.
So they do, and it'll do it.
They do have a memory. So some of the comments that I see about flags and dents and stuff like that, it's a kayak. That's the way they're made. One of the things that I thought is kind of interesting, if I went down and I bought a brand new Ford pickup, my dream truck, and brought it home and went next door and got my buddy to show him the pickup and noticed a great big dent in the door, I wouldn't get on Facebook and say, look what Ford shipped me. But we see crazy stuff on Facebook, and I don't want to dwell in that. And I don't want to discount anybody's concerns. But it's a kayak. It's a $1,799 kayak that you can do great things with, and it's going to last longer than you will if you take care of it. And that's enough said about that.
Absolutely, man. Very cool. No, it's one of those things, man, and you know it. In the long term, you know, the dealer's going to take care of you, and it's the same thing. I know you and I had a private conversation, and you know, any customer that comes in your door with a concern, you want to take care of them and make sure they're leaving a happy customer and going to be a repeat customer.
Well, and the customer is always the customer. I'm not going to say everything goes wonderfully here, but we do that. We take great care of the customer. And one of the things that I don't like is when I hear about somebody getting a kayak and they're taking everything home and putting it together themselves. If somebody buys a pivot drive or a Newport Vessel's NK180 or a bow mount trolling motor and whatever options, they come and they pick the kayak up here and it's ready for the water. That way I know there's Loctite on all the bolts, everything's been put together properly, and they're not going to go out there and learn by, have mistakes on the water, I guess is what I'm saying.
Sure.
The only other area that I would caution people about if they're buying kayak, if you're 4 hours or 5 hours away from a NuCanoe dealer, don't have a kayak shipped to your home address. Go get it. I've had a kayak shipped one time. NuCanoe stopped doing that. They do it in dire, I think, situations, because when these shippers see a 100, 120-pound kayak along with all their boxes, they're going to abuse it. Forklifts could go through it. If it doesn't get lost, it's probably going to end up with some dings in it. So drive that 4 hours to a dealer, get it, look at the kayak, bring home exactly what you want, the color you want, you'll be happy.
Yeah, no, I know there's a few manufacturers out there that ship their boats LTL, which, you know, is basically a terminal to terminal shipping, and those boats get changed over in trailers. And, you know, here personally at our shop, we've had more boats than we'd like to admit that have come in damaged. You know, we've seen forklifts go through the side of the boat, dents, dings, drags, you know, and all these manufacturers, NuCanoe included, like when you open up a NuCanoe, that thing is wrapped in foam plus some thick plastic, and you know that only does so much, and it's not the manufacturer's fault. You know, like they try to package those things up so that damage doesn't occur, but unfortunately sometimes you got to deal with that with trucking companies and the way things are shipped. You know, it's like, yeah, you could put a boat on a direct shipment, but it's going to cost you 6 times as much as what it would be through an LTL shipper. So that's like, you know, big back there. You know, it's as much as, you know, I'm sure yourself and other dealers would like to do that. Like, it's not realistic. And especially with fuel prices right now, shipping has gone through the roof. You know,
It's somewhere between like $300 to $500 to ship the way they come from NuCanoe. And you really need to build a crate around it with cardboard or something.
Sure.
So that it's not going to get. Bring up one of the pictures of what they look like when they're shipped by NuCanoe. Because I think this was a truck. The only reason I took this picture is I think this was like our first truckload. We were so thrilled to get
a truckload of boats. And
yeah, we have 24 of them showing up in about a week. Yeah, so that's what they look like when they're shipped from NuCanoe. They're wrapped in a plastic bag. That is a plastic bag that's tight on both ends. And then the foam that covers it is, I don't know, about 16 feet long. It folds over both ends, comes completely around the kayak. It's taped continually, and then the plastic is put around it. If you are going to a dealer to pick up the kayak that's just been shipped, you might want to ask them to save the packaging for you and don't cut through the plastic, that you want the full plastic bag that's covering that kayak, because you can wrap it up. When we're stacking kayaks for display, like, I don't have room. I'm going to have like 35 kayaks here. So I'm stacking them 3 high, and I put one of those pieces of foam in between them with the seat brace hooked to them. I never have any damage on any of them. So it works out really well.
Yeah, no, we usually, you know, unless we have it on the floor in our showroom, you know, like we'll leave our overstock wrapped up like that. And a lot of times we try to sell those boats first. And 9 times out of 10, customers want to leave that stuff on and open it up when they get home, you know?
Yeah, I do that too, because I have a boat here with pivot drive, an F-12 with pivot drive, one with an NK 180 with foot steer, and then the one by the front has a 80-pound thrust Dakota. That's a bad boy. But I try to keep kayaks set up. And what's so funny, people will come to buy an unlimited, and then you'll see one with like Newport vessels and everything for 80 and the battery and foot steer and everything all set up. We're like 2 minutes from the water. And I have 2 demos that are set up that way. You take them out on the water, let them try that kayak with foot steer, and that's what they come back and buy. It's an amazing kayak.
Yeah, no, it's I mean, I got my foot steer at the beginning of the season, and my first time out on the water, like my jaw dropped and I had this huge grin on my face. I'm like, this is amazing. This is what I've been looking for complete hands-free from motor controls and things like that. I mean, granted, you know, I run a Newport and I still got to, you know, hit my throttle forward and back. But like a lot of times when I get to my spot, you know, I'll have my motor on at like maybe 10%, 15%. and I can steer with my foot and just cast going down, whatever area I'm fishing at the time, which is super key.
Yeah, that's funny you're saying that, because I was just going to say that. You have a casting bar. You can steer with that foot steer while you're standing up. That's what's so cool about it. The other thing, one of the first kayaks I sold was to a friend of mine. We call him Dr. Steve. And he bought a F12 with a Torpedo 1103. Have you ever taken one of those out for a ride?
I've never tried the 1103 out. I can't say that I have used that.
Have you had a unlimited or an F12 with a 3 horsepower on the back?
I haven't had that either.
That's the comparison. First time I was on an F12 on his kayak, took it out for a test run. I had the seat back like I normally put it, right about here, and that kayak popped the really. I thought it was going to come back on me. There's that much torque in that engine. Pushes an F12 about 7 to 8 miles an hour, but the difference is it gets up there really quick, and the 1103 is a super, super quiet engine.
Sure.
Where the reason I did this 80-pound plus that we have on my demo now is that's as close as I can get to an 1103. Yeah, you showing the foot steer.
Yep.
Yeah, see, with the foot steer, you can actually control that with your foot while you're standing up. The other thing is, notice how I put the throttle on the same side? That has the Yak Attack base that holds the throttle, and you can lean it out over the side. So you can have everything right there.
Yeah, that's the first time I've ever seen it like up by the foot pedal there. But I could see it if you're using a casting bar and being able to reach down while you're standing up. That would make sense.
Well, yeah, and if you have like a monitor on the right hand side,
sure,
it works out real well. While we have that up, I want to show you that I just got some blade. On an F12, the gunnels are about an inch shorter than on an unlimited. So there's a fix for it. If you order the foot steer for a F12, you're going to get one of these in the package, and it just fits right under here, which lifts this pedal up a quarter of an inch more off the ground, and then you have full access to the steer. So it's a little bit different than the unlimited, but that's one fix that I want to cover. If you do get an F12, you can get these kayaks. Basically, all you have to do is remove these 4 bolts, put the pad underneath. I'm pretty sure I just got them, but it looks like that's the fix. Then you have one more of these that go under, which just lifts the foot pedal up for the lift. We said 2. It could be that you have to get 2 under. I haven't done it yet, but I'll probably get to that tomorrow.
Very cool.
Anyway, on that 1103, the only reason I brought up the big Torpedo, he loves it. The downside was it puts out so much torque that it was hard to steer it with the hand steer. That's how much torque that thing puts out. You get these big motors with this new foot steer, and they just fly. It's like totally effortless, even with the ones that are putting out a lot of torque. So this foot steer, in my mind, it puts NuCanoe totally in a category that separates them from the rest of the competition. With the foot steer, it's just an amazing kayak. I can't imagine ever selling anybody a stick steer again.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. It's like we talked about. You went through a bunch of boats before you became a NuCanoe dealer, and I personally have been in a lot of different boats and in a lot of different steering setups, and the hand steering was okay. I wasn't the biggest fan, but it was decent. And then when I saw the foot steering at ICAST last year, I said, this is going to completely change the game. And when I actually got the actual finished product, put it in my boat and got on the water, I'm like, there's nothing else I want. I'm a happy man.
Yeah, I like it too. Bring up the picture Cable Wonderland is what I'm calling it.
Okay.
The only alternative that we had for that Torpedo was to contact Innovative Sportsman, get the cable system where you'd actually have to drill holes through the back of his Frontier 12, run cable underneath the deck, and then put 2 foot pedals on the inside. So it's like the old kayaks with the rudders that you're steering with the foot pedals. I tried to do that install, and I'm pretty handy. I've watched it done a couple times on the internet, and I must be brain dead. I call that cable wonderland. Look at all of that stuff.
Sure.
I mean, could you imagine buying a Hobie or a Feel-Free or a NuCanoe or whatever and having to drill holes in it, run cables through it? You got to get a special Yak Attack stuff to run over the tracks so that the pedals won't snug on the inside. And the thing that really bugged me about that whole install was that it wasn't clean, number one. You have cables and string all over the place. And you wear out one cable, you wore out your steering system. That took me almost 2 days to install. Now, it was my first one. I could probably do that job the next time if I wanted to, in a couple of hours. But if you look at that, they call it on the top of that, this back here that you tie the string to.
Yep.
All of that comes with the NuCanoe kit. Not the NuCanoe,
The Newport kit.
You open up the box, here's all of this stuff. You got cables in there, you got this thing, you got, there's just so much stuff in there. All of the stuff you saw in that picture and much more. So what's so funny is we pull out the NK180 and we pull out the throttle, we close the box and back it away because that's all we need. Literally,
Yep.
That's all you need to do this install. And I can do this install maybe in about 15 minutes on a NuCanoe from start to finish. And what that means to your customer is that everything's plug and play. Once I've installed it on the kayak, they can take everything off once they get home within a matter of 2 or 3 minutes. When they get ready to go fishing, they can load it back up in 2 or 3 minutes. Everything's plugged back in and they're ready to rock and roll. You don't have to mess with all that. Anyway, I don't want to go, bury that into the ground, but not my choice. I sure don't want a foot steer cable system on a kayak.
Yeah, no, it's
The other one.
Go ahead, Mark.
Bring up Awesome Combo.
Okay.
Sorry, I should have numbered these.
No, you're good, man.
I call this Awesome Combo because it is whatever kayak a customer wants to buy. This one that's going to show up in the picture is a Flint. It has the stick steer or the hand steer quick connect mountain control kit is what they call it, what it's called. And a 24-volt, 50 amp hour amped outdoors battery. That entire package is $3,350. So you can get a Flint with the NK180 on it. There it is right there with the NK180 on it. It's this battery right here, the 24-volt, 50 amp hour. It includes this big charger. It comes from the factory with Anderson plug on the charger and an Anderson plug for the battery. All I have to do is snip the cables on the NK180 and add an Anderson plug, and then everything is plug and play. That's why the install goes so quick. And that's a whole lot easier than unscrewing leads from a battery whenever you want to go out or whenever you're trying to hook and unhook. But this has the NK180 on the back. It has the 24-volt, 50 amp hour. It has the battery box. You don't need to put a breaker on it. There's already a breaker in the system. And then the straps or track straps that go over the battery box. It includes the throttle mount, which is this baby right here. And then the throttle goes on it, just like the first picture that you showed of the foot steer. And on the Unlimited and the F12, we're doing the foot steer. Pretty soon we're going to be doing the foot steer on everything. But that's a cool setup.
That setup with the Flint, man, that thing's got a cruise. And I've been talking to a couple buddies about, you know, throwing my NK 180 on a Flint and just seeing what it could do. You know, it's, especially in a river setting, you know, being able to go upstream, float back down, or vice versa, being able to float downstream and then coming back up and getting in your truck and taking off in a river setting. That's huge. That's huge.
Yeah. The Flint is the hull design and the weight difference on the Flint. You pick up at least 1 mile an hour top. So with that Flint and with that battery, what, you have about a 30-mile range?
Sure.
30-mile range on a kayak. Think about that. That's amazing. That's and that's at full throttle. So if you have enough power to get out to where you want to go. If you get to catch a big snook, you can pop it in reverse and back up away from the bank. It's just a cool system. I love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's super slick. And not only that, but, you know, a lot of guys use Flints in the river. So even if you were in a shallow river, so to speak, and you wanted to take that motor off, I mean, it's one pin and the quick release on the Yak Attack mount, and bam, now you're back to a paddling kayak, which is nice.
Yeah, the only difference that I do when I'm doing this is the NK 180. This bar, I think that's part of one of the wings that comes in it. You know, if you bought a whole beer or whatever and you had to run cables through, this is the part that you need. Well, instead, it also comes with this gasket that goes on the shaft that I can connect it. So it puts a higher, it puts a pivot that is just a little bit higher to pull this motor out of the water. And then instead of going through this part, I hook a pulley to it. And then when I come down, I'll show another picture where I put a pulley right down behind the seat. So now you have 2 pulleys pulling this motor forward. And then you come back up around the front pulley that comes with the kayak, make it to where it just comes out of the water with no effort at all. So it's a cool motor, and this is very light. So I'm holding a Mintona up or a regular trolling motor. I can remember when we went from power tools, 12 volt to 24 volt. Power tools were good when they were cordless, when they were 12 volt. All of a sudden, when you went to 18 volts or 20 volt, now you have stuff like this.
Hey, Mark. Yeah. Not to cut you off, bud, but I think your microphone's rubbing on your shirt. Some guys are saying we got some bad static going on.
We doing better now?
Oh, that's way better. That's way better.
Okay. I'll stop moving around.
No worries,
but
man.
Anyway, with the 20, this is 18 volts. Now you have impacts. Well, with the Newport vessels being 24 volt, little teeny prop, and that baby is amazing on the water. The other thing that I like about, I don't mean to keep going about that motor, but the other thing that I like about it is it's quiet. I can go over mullet and drum and stuff like that. And if I'm going at a quiet speed, they don't skirt from the kayak. So you're not, you know, making as much noise as you would with the other stuff that's out.
Sure. So a question for you, because you guys are kind of where you're at, you got some saltwater close to you. So are your customers using the Newport in the saltwater setting? And if so, like how has that been so far?
It's made for freshwater, saltwater.
Okay.
It works fine in saltwater. I talked to Rommel about Rommel when I'm
Rommel, aka the Wizard.
I talked to Rommel. He's probably tired of hearing from me. I have a picture of the throttle that I wanted you to bring that up. I'm going to show you a picture I've had to ask him 3 times about. And every single time, it's right when the customer's here. It's the last minute, and the motor won't start. and I can't figure out what I'm doing wrong. I read something on Facebook today, and a guy was saying the same thing. I was out there, and all of a sudden, my motor stopped working. You call Newport Vessels, they'll tell you to push a couple buttons, and then it'll start going. Anyway, what I didn't do was that when you have a dot, 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 a line, on the top button of the throttle, this part right here, it'll show the voltage, and then it'll go dot, 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 dot. Well, I couldn't figure out. Look, and I'm putting some throttle to it, and I'm getting nothing. And what you have to do is you just have to push the on button, and then those lines will go away. Recall.
Yeah,
So
I remember. I kind of had a similar issue when I first rigged up my Newport motor, and I turned it on, and like I go to push the throttle forward, nothing's happening, and I got an error code, and I messaged Romel, and I'm like, dude, what did I do? And you know, I'm sitting here freaking out, thinking I burned out my motor, and I didn't, you know, wire it up correctly. And he's like, hit the mode button. Because it's got the setting for the lead acid and the lithium. And I hit the mode button, and obviously the motor fired right up. So
yeah, that's all it takes.
And I mean, I told him it helps to read the instructions, I'm sure, but why do that when I got Romel on speed dial?
Yeah, what I'd like to do from here, if it's okay, enough about us and all that jazz. If I can, I just want to talk about a few things that might be helpful to people that are going through their first NuCanoe or adding options that they've never added before that might make it a little bit easier. Bring up the one that says Anderson plugs, and then I'm going to talk about that for just a second.
Sure.
We like buying, and I know there's a lot of different battery companies you could buy from. They're all good, and I'll be honest with you, I'm going back to iCast, and one of the things I want to do is to build a relationship with a battery company. These are the Anderson plugs. I love these things. The solder, I'm showing in one sitting in a vise, and what you do is you just take like a little butane torch, or if you have a regular torch, you heat that. I don't know if you can see this on my feed, but you just heat that up. You fill it halfway with solder. You strip the wire just enough to go into that lead, just enough to go into this lead. So I'm filling this up halfway with solder. I just put it in here so that I'm not burning my fingers. And then I heat the solder, fill it up about halfway. I've stripped the wire enough to stick it in there in a few seconds. It's just as solid as can be. From that, once you have the wires on, then they just snap through on the, here, I can show you on this one. Here's the Anderson plug right here. The only other thing, this is what it looks like done. The only other thing that I done, this is that shrink tape or whatever you call it.
Yeah, just
I put that right here. Well, yeah, only because people have a tendency, you know, when they're in a hurry to pull on the wires, which you don't want to do instead of the plug. Eventually, you're going to pull it out. But this just gives it a little bit of extra grip. Now, there is a plastic cover that you can order for these Anderson plugs that's about $5 or $6 for a pair. And that's kind of cool because you can make them completely waterproof with plugs that go on the end, because you know how kayaks are. I don't care how short you have the lines. You have a tendency to drop things in the drink, and the more waterproof you can make them, the better. But I love these plugs. I order from Amped Outdoors. 3 days later, I have a battery, so it's been a great situation. But I'm definitely looking forward to iCast and looking to see what other lithium batteries were out there. It's so funny. When we started about a year and a half ago, we had these great big Deca batteries, and I'm turning 70 this year. it took everything I had to lift one of those mothers out to the kayak.
Yeah, sure.
So the 50 amp hour battery or the 60 amp hour 12 volt is just a pleasure because you can pick it up, take it to the kayak without breaking your back. But anyhow, that's enough of that.
Sure.
The other thing, there's another picture that I want you to bring up. Okay. It's called line crimps. It's these babies right here. It's like a cable crimp or whatever, and you'll see it on the line. This was yeah, there you go. You put this through the line. There's actually another picture that shows it on the motor. I called it line crimps. If you could get that one.
Yep.
Yeah, there you go. You find it? Because then they can see what it looks like on the lines themselves. I get tired of tying knots in lines, and then a couple weeks later, the knot's coming out. So if you use these cable crimps, you have to crimp them with the pliers or whatever. But if you run your line through it, man, does that make a clean install. And what's so funny, you open up the box on a NK180 from Newport Vessels, and that's how they have their lines attached to everything. It's just a real clean way to do it. But anyway, don't worry about bringing that picture up. That's fine.
Okay.
We're not doing the XI3 here because they are freshwater. I think I've only had one or two that's gone through here, and they sat here for months because everybody that comes in here, first thing they ask, can I take it out on saltwater? No, it's a freshwater trolling motor for $1,200, and we don't want you to wreck it. So
Sure.
We've been buying the Minn Kota iPilot with GPS. That's a $1,500 trolling motor. So it's $300 more, but it's saltwater. And from what I understand, the XI3 saltwater, when it does become available, and I think in a few weeks it's going to be, it will probably be maybe $50 less than the Minn Kota. I really like the Minn Kota bow mount for saltwater. When you put the two side by side, I just think it's but I haven't seen the saltwater XI3, so I could be totally wrong. But anyhow, it's worked out great for us, and that pushes the unlimited about 4 miles an hour. You can upgrade to a 3-blade prop and get almost another mile per hour out of it. Pushes it a lot better. So anyway.
We got somebody in the chat asking brand are those plugs?
What is he asking?
What brand are those the plugs?
You go on wherever on Google and look up Anderson plugs. That's what they're called. They're pricey, but they're worth it. I think it's like $4 or $5 for a pair.
Okay.
I don't know. I buy boxes of them, so I don't know what I pay for them. But they're really an awesome addition. I'll probably stick with those regardless of whatever battery we get to. I want you to pull up the pictures of the pivot drive that I sent you. Sure. I just installed one. That was the hardest thing for me to master, becoming a new dealer, was installing the pivot drives. And listen, I completely understand some of the folks with a little bit of frustration. So I want to talk about some hints. What my wife is holding in her hands, I wish I had a pivot drive I could show you. That is the sleeve on the left, and that is the bracket that holds the sleeve in place over that little hole that you see there. Well, trying to go through that black thing with the cable and the hole on the pedal system is pretty tough. So go to another picture. I think I show another shot of that.
This one here.
Okay, that's what it looks like when it's in place. So you'll notice there's four bolts, four bolts, one up and down and two from side to side. The bracket that I'm talking about is right dead center. It takes 2 Phillips screws to pull off. It comes off very easy. And then that sleeve comes right out of the pedal system. Well, if you take the cable, put the black sleeve over the cable, and of course you're putting the other thing that goes over the sleeve. So all of that is on the cable. You have access then to the pedal system. The only other thing, leave that picture on. The only other thing that I do is see where that cable's going into the drive system? I put a little bit of silicone spray like WD-40 and it just slips right in there. Now, the other thing and then I put the sleeve back on and then the brace for the sleeve with the 2 Phillips screws and it's done. I mean, it literally takes 2 or 3 minutes for me to do and I can do it every time. The other thing that was real difficult was getting the pin in. That's a little dinky screwdriver. There's 4 holes that are drilled into that sleeve. Before you put the sleeve back on, look to see for the direction that is cut. There's like a slice that is cut in the cable. You put the sleeve over it, and then you're going to know which way the pin goes in, because you have to put a pin in the way that screwdriver is situated to hold that cable in place. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if you use a little screwdriver, all that does is it helps me know when I'm lined up so that I can put the pin through. So I'm lined up perfectly. I can see the ridge in the, you can see the ridge in the cable once you turn the sleeve in the right direction. And then once you can get a little screwdriver like that, and that is a little teeny sucker, then you can put the cable through. I just tap it with a ball peen hammer and it just slides right through and the install is done. The only other thing, leave that picture up. The only other thing that I would caution anybody about when you're installing the pivot drive, if a screw does not go in easily on anything that you get from NuCanoe, take it out and start over again. Something is not lined up right. Never force anything into any of this product because it is machine made, it's made perfectly, and everything's going to fit just the way it should. The other thing, every part you get from NuCanoe is what I would call beefy. It's made to last. The only thing I didn't like about the Hobies, and Hobies has a wonderful pedal drive, is that once a year, you had to completely break down the pedal drive. Folks that are owning Hobies are going, yeah, he's right. You had to completely break down the pedal system. About every 2 years, you have to replace the chain. You'd have to lubricate everything, hook it all back up together, and then you'd be good to go. The thing I like about the pivot drive is that cable's not coming undone. The cable on the foot steer or on the hand steer, that thing is not in my lifetime is it gonna wear out. There, now you can see the slit in the cable? Yep. So before I put that sleeve on, see how the 2 holes are lined up perfectly with that? So the sleeve goes on, then I'd know which direction the screws are gonna go, and it just makes the install very, very easy. But remember, when you're doing these installs on a desk or whatever, put all your hardware in a cup or whatever, because I will guarantee you, your first install on a pivot drive, you're going to be moving that cable around and you're going to be knocking crap all over the place because it's a very rigid, heavy cable. The cable that they use on the pivot drives, like something you'd see on an automobile. It's very, very solid. Go back to that last picture.
Sure.
Okay, that is the transom bracket that the pivot drive hooks to. That's another area a lot of people have trouble with, is getting that to line up. You just put it on. First, there's a gasket that goes through the hole in the transom. I think it's about 1 1/4 inch, and it's orange or black or whatever. It goes through that transom hole. Then the transom bracket that you're seeing goes right over the back of the transom. And basically what this does, the transom's already very thick. This just beefs up the transom. You have a long bolt that goes through that you see in that picture. There's a washer on this end that goes flush against it. And then there's another washer, a lock washer, and a hand-tight bolt that goes on the other end. And what I do is when I get the whole lined up, I just give it a couple taps, and then I use an electric screwdriver with a 1/4-inch socket on it, and I just drive that thing through there, and it just takes nothing. Once it's on, it's on. Go to the next picture. What do you got?
Yeah, sure.
Go to the next picture. Next one. Let's see what you got. I'll just talk about the pictures the way. There you go. That's the pin in place. Screwdriver was out, and the pin just comes through. When you get it that way, you know the job is done. Another thing I wanted to talk about, that is the hand steer. What did I put that on today? Oh, I put that on the pivot drive on the F12. One of the things that I learned, there is a little teeny notch right in the very up, right there. See that little thing? You got to screw the cable into that. Well, the first 2 or 3 installs, Merrill would be holding that part, and then I would be like trying to turn the cable, you know, like this to screw onto the back of it. It was a mess. So all you got to do is just take a 1/4-inch wrench and a screwdriver and take that part completely off. Put some Loctite. Use Loctite on everything. When you get parts from NuCanoe, they have Loctite on them, so they won't come out of the kayak. But all you do is then you screw it on the end of the cable, then you reattach it to the handle, and you're good to go. Can you go back to that picture? Okay, at the very bottom, see where the cable hooks through?
Yep.
When you're, that part, go down a little bit more with your pointer, right there. That part is loose on these when you get them from the factory. There's 2 bolts behind there. You just take a screwdriver and a wrench, tighten that down so it's not floating on your hand steer, and you're ready to go. And then you just put that on the gunnel, and you put 2 1/4-inch, 3/4-inch deep bolts through with Loctite on them, and you're ready to rock and roll.
Like it. I like it.
So that's all there is to it. The other thing, it's a big cable. I don't have the seat on. I don't have a casting bar on. When I'm putting a pivot drive on a kayak, nothing's on the kayak because you're messing with the cable. Once you get the seat base on and everything in place, then you can put all that back on. And the best thing about the pivot drive is that once it's set up, it's going to keep working year after year. With a Hobie, I hate going back about Hobie. With a Hobie, if you were going through 4 inches of water, you could push the pedals all the way forward or all the way back, and the fins would come up like that against the side of the kayak. But the problem with the Hobie is that the kayak has to be moving in order for it to turn. In other words, that rear rudder has to have speed behind it for the kayak to be able to make a turn. With the pivot drive, you're turning the prop on the very back of the kayak, so you could virtually just about sit motionless and do a 180.
Sure.
The other thing that I really like about it is that, especially here in Florida, you want to fish at the places boats can't get to. That's where you're going to find the springs that the redfish are hid in. That's where you're going to see otters and all the good stuff. And there's one canal that we go up here that's about a 6-mile run each way, and it's just beautiful back there. But this guy has cut down probably 50 palm trees in this canal going in there. So even going in high tide, but what you can do with a NuCanoe pedal drive or a NuCanoe with an NK 180 is you just hit those logs, the motor pops up, pops back down, and you just keep on trucking. And that's another area where I think NuCanoe just has the industry by the balls.
Yeah, that breakaway is super nice, especially if you're fishing areas like you're talking about where you got stumps, logs, you know, anything like that that's gonna stop you from in your tracks. You know, when that motor
Yeah.
breaks away or the pivot drive breaks away, it saves you a lot of money.
I hope I explained that well. If
Yeah, I
somebody's
absolutely.
having if anybody is having a problem with the pivot drive, give us a call. I'll walk you through it. It's super easy. I even have videos of me doing that. So that's
Awesome.
not a problem. Bring up the next picture that you have.
That was all the pivot drive ones that you had
Yeah.
sent me.
Yeah, let's see what other kind of trouble I'm causing here. I think there's one that you have that is called Basic Decking Kit. Bring that one up.
I believe it is this one.
I mean, a lot of questions that I read on in various places about what does the completion decking kit look like. That is my favorite color, and that is the basic decking kit. Now go to the next picture. It's probably the completion decking kit. Other way, other way.
Oh, going the wrong way.
Oh, go back one. Go back one.
That one there?
Go. No, go. Keep going. Keep going. Okay, stop there. Go back. I'm just going to talk out of order.
Sure.
I don't put anything under the deck. The only thing I'll put under the deck is if I'm doing deck lights. And if I'm doing deck lights on a kayak, they're the little pin lights, LED pin lights that snap through the hull and they're waterproof.
Sure.
And you can put 3 of those little button lights on each side of an unlimited. 3, just 3 on each side. And if you get the green ones, you'll put a 3-foot, you'll light up the water at night into the water 3 feet around the kayak. It is so awesome. And I have a picture of a lighted kayak. Go back to that picture you just had.
Oh, here, let me pull up the lighted one. I have that right here.
Okay. Yeah, 2 things I wanted to talk about on that. First light system that I did came from Yak Lights, not real happy. And it had the light strips that went on the side.
Sure.
I cannot get light strips to stick to the side of a kayak. These little round buttons put out. Look at that. Look what 3 buttons do. It'll light up your whole garage. And green light in the water, that's a fish magnet. You go out at 3 or 4 a.m. in salt water, you're going to get snook and redfish coming right up to your kayak. The other thing that I like is, see the red lights on the deck? I learned that from being around boats so much. Red lights at night do not blind you. You can see the deck clearly, and you can see out over the darkness clearly. Red lights are the way to go if you're going to put lights in your kayak. Red lights for the deck, green lights for outside, and then these kits all come with navigation lights in the bow, in the front, and big spotlight, and they're awesome. And one of the things that I'm going to try to coordinate with Yak Power, which is a very good company, is a hopefully where I can get them to install in front of me at ICAST their system on an unlimited, and then take that baby home with me. Haven't talked to Blake or Yak Power, but I'd really like to do that because I'd like to see the way those electricians are putting it in, and then I'm just going to duplicate it. The thing that I really like about the unlimited is you have the access panel up front. You have 2 access panels, you know, midway on each side, and then you have the big access panel in the back. Am I missing any? But you have access.
1 in the front, 2 on the side, 1 on each side, and then the 1 in the tank well.
Yeah, but you have access. And the cool thing about NuCanoe is that if you screw up one of those access panels by drilling too big a hole for a plug, or you break something, if your kayak is registered with NuCanoe, all you got to do is call them. They don't charge you postage or anything. They're just going to send the part. Bring up the next picture that you have. Let's see what you got.
Here is the.
It's called. There's one called COMPL decking kit.
This one here.
That's what the completion decking kit looks like on an F12. Looks amazing on an Unlimited as well. See how the pads even come up around the gunnels and over the front hatch? It really looks good. I love it. Especially if you're gonna spend the extra $100 for a Mossy Oak, get a completion deck kit. And basically, Meryl puts those on, and she just takes alcohol, rubs down the entire deck to make sure it's completely clean, and then she uses a heat gun to heat up each face a little bit, lays all the pieces out first, and then one at a time heats up the spots where the pad should go, and then just rolls them out. And we have never had one come up. But the completion decking kit, when you set up a fishing kayak with that, it's really impressive. Let's see what else we have. Camden Davies.
Which one was that? Sorry, Mark.
It's called Camden Davies. He has a Unlimited with the completion decking kit. It's the same color. Really looks awesome on the Unlimited. And he put a bow mount XI3 on it. If you're not finding it, don't worry about it.
I believe
Not there. You got it? Cool.
I think so. This one here?
Yeah. He came and picked up this kayak. Yeah, that's it. He came and picked up, I think that's an Unlimited. Yeah, that's an Unlimited. He came and picked up this kayak. You have another shot of it on the water. That's the one I was looking for.
Okay.
But that's amazing. By the way, in this picture, see that rocket launcher on the back with the 3 Omegas?
Yeah.
I got that from the prior Tampa dealer, and I just shot a video of his kayak. Amazing, Unlimited. But those are aluminum. It's adjustable, so you can go whatever width. It'll work on a Flynn or whatever. And normally I put 4 Omegas on it, so you can have 2 upright and 2 out to the side. That's just I think an awesome option. Let's see what other pictures we have. Elite, do you have one Mossy Oak Autumn's Land, and right next to it, Elite Kit, and right next to that, Buzz's trailer?
So here is the Mossy Oak coming up. There you go.
That was right after they came out. We had Bottomlands and Shadowgrass. This is the Bottomlands. And we put a full decking kit on for this person. It doesn't show in the photo. The deck pads feel differently. I really like the seats, how they match the decking on these kayaks. What an awesome kayak that is. Isn't that cool?
Heck yeah. I have a Shadow Blade Grass sitting in the garage, ready to go for hunting season. So I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Life is tough.
It is.
Go to the next go to the next picture.
All right.
Oh, that's the other thing I wanted to say. It was so funny. I'm listening to one of your podcasts, I don't know, a few weeks ago, and I can't remember the fellow's name. It's the individual that handles all of the Facebook pages.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
Well, he has 10 Unlimiteds. Leave that picture up. But he has 10 different Unlimiteds and hasn't had a problem with one. How many do you have?
I got 2 personally.
Okay. Well, I mean, I really believe, and I don't want to keep going back to that, but I think some of the concerns that you read about, you're going to read about any brand, and I think I think for the most part, it's people coming out of a metal boat or first time on a kayak. Okay. Evidently, the folks on the NuCanoe team make a substantial income because look at Buzz's trailer. Is that ridiculous? That is an enclosed trailer. He has a F12 and unlimited and a Flint, and he has the systems. Of course, he's a fisherman, tournament guy, so he's sitting on a cooler, not a seat.
Sure.
But that middle shelf right there, that's electric. That is so cool.
Yeah, that's super slick.
I just wanted to show that trailer. That's a nice trailer.
So, real quick, Mark, our guy Foul Freddy in the chat is asking where can he see the videos of the install for the pivot drive, and where can you get the aluminum track for the rod holders in the back that we just showed not too long ago?
I was only able to get 3 of those from him, so he'd have to call me. In fact, tell him to give me a ring. A Beach Basement Kayaks in Florida, and I'll guide him in the right direction for both. Now, the other thing he wanted the
video for
the rocket launcher and the video. The video. Here's my problem with videos. I finally got a video out yesterday, and that was on Doc Lynn's kayak. And the reason took me 2 days to figure out how to do that with iMovie. iMovie 10 years ago, an 8th grader could have created a movie with it. Now iMovie is like this be-all of movie-making software, so you have to be like a computer programmer to at least, I don't know, I watched so many videos, and it was so hard to get. But anyhow, it's already shot on the pivot drive. I shot another one today. So hopefully within the next week or 2 at the latest, I'm going to post that video on YouTube. Okay.
Cool. And I just dropped Mark's website and phone numbers that I just grabbed off the Facebook page in the chat, both on YouTube and Facebook. And guys and gals listening on the podcast later, it'll be in the show notes for you as well.
Go to the next picture. I think it's called the Elite Kit. Because you hear about a lot of this stuff, nobody really gets to see it unless they see it on somebody else's kayak or read about it. YouTube has great videos, don't get me wrong, but some of this stuff confused me the first 6 months I was here.
Just give me 1 second, I'm getting it pulled up.
On this individual's kayak, he's a retired police officer, lives in way down south, ordered an unlimited, and he wanted his Solex 10, Humminbird Solex 10, to be able to communicate, there it is, with his Minn Kota iPilot Link. And the iPilot Link is a $2,000 trolling motor. This Humminbird Solex 10 is a full-blown computer. That is an amazing piece of hardware. I think that monitor must weigh 8 pounds. It is a heavy piece of equipment. And I've seen some folks, and I'd love to get some feedback, because really would have been better on this is to have 2 supports to hold that monitor. But it held up really good on that on the Elite Kit. And
Sure.
the Elite Kit, of course, is the dash, that bullwinkle. You see the bullwinkle on the front that you can put your rods on. And you could put a cell phone on there, your cell phone rack. You can put the Humminbird on the middle. It's just a cool option that NuCanoe has. A lot of this stuff comes through Yak Attack, but on the bottom of that is this baby right here, the cell block. I don't know if you can see me pointing at that, but right up here, see the cell block battery box.
Mm-hmm.
That holds these little 6 amp hour to 12 amp hour lithium batteries that you could dedicate just to your electronics. And the reason you want to do that, unless you have something in between, using the same battery for electronics, from what I understand, that you're using for a trolling motor can cause some interference with your monitor. You would know that better than I.
Sure.
But I separate out everything. So with the cell block and that Elite kit, you can put the battery right underneath that dash, and you can put the monitor right up there with it. Your monitor and everything is right there in the center of the kayak. And then another option that I am just in awe over that NuCanoe created is the transducer retract kit. You're reading a lot of things where people, you know, how do I do this? How do I do that? That's only because it's new. I do have a picture of that if you can find it. I did the transducer to that Solex 10, and that was a big cable, and we were able to fish it up through there. We had to widen the space that the cable goes through a little bit to get that to work. But the transducer retract that goes through the center hole of an Unlimited, little water will come up through there. Little water is going to come up through there anyway. But it puts the transducer right in the center of the kayak, and it makes everything plug and play, because you can unhook your monitor and pull it off of the kayak. Your transducer is still there. It pops up flush into that little pocket underneath the hull of the kayak, so you're not going to be rubbing it on the ground. You know, and it puts it right in the center of the kayak, so you get a much more accurate reading. I just think it's an awesome addition. Anyway, let's see if there's anything else. Can you go to the one that's called pulley system? There you go, leave it there. See how big that transducer is compared to the retract system? It was a monster. I couldn't believe it. But anyway, with the Solex 10, he was able to control his trolling motor from his monitor. And what that meant to him is that he could plot a course. And it was a self-driving kayak for all practical purposes, because basically he was totally hands-free. And it would take him at whatever speed he wanted, whatever distance he went, last trip out from the bank, it would repeat that trip to within like 2 or 3 feet. Just awesome. And the spot lock on Minn Kotas and XI3 for fishing, you know, if you can get in a tournament and they allow motors and you can put a bow mount with spot lock, you're ahead of the game. There's another one called pulley system. Yeah, anytime you're not fighting the kayak and you could just fish, I think that puts you a few paces ahead of the competition, that's for sure.
Oh, without a doubt. Right up here. There we go. There's a pulley system for you, Mike.
Now, this isn't a greatest picture, but I have a video that just went out. I learned this pulley system from Doc Lynn in Tampa. Doc Lynn turned 80 or 81, was a NuCanoe dealer for 14 to 15 years. Absolutely wonderful individual. But basically, there's an anchor point. You'll see that it's called a screw loop that is attached to the track that you tie the string to. There's a pulley at the top of the shaft of the trolling motor. So it goes from an anchor point on the track up right where you're pointing, and then back down to a second pulley. See the second pulley right there? And then it runs right along the inside of the track, clear up to the front round pulley that NuCanoe furnishes. And when you're adding 3 pulleys to a motor, it makes it 3 times as easy to pull out of the water. So, I mean, literally with 3 fingers, you can pull the motor out of the water. I like to put on the track. If you have a track, it's called a screwball. I wish I had one to show you. From Yakutak, it's called a screwball, and it looks like a bowling ball, little teeny bowling ball that will fit onto your track. And basically, what you can do is that once you have that motor, this is a bow mount, so it's opposite for the stern mount on the pulley system. But when you have a stern mount motor and you put that screwball on the track, you already have a loop in the handle. You can pull the handle back over that screwball and it secures the motor out of the water. You put a second screw ball back about 6 inches further, and that motor is completely out of the water, level with the back of the kayak. So it's just a trick that I learned from him. I did, like I said, a video on his. I think it's called Dockland's Kayak or whatever. That is a worthy kayak to watch. That's what 15 years of experience will give you. In that video, he uses the hand tool batteries. Leave that picture up. He uses the hand tool batteries to support his GoPro, his monitor, and his lights. And I talk about that and how to get them on the video. They're amazing and they're easy to use. And they give little plugs that hook into the top of your tool batteries, your power tool batteries to make that work. And then a little converter that knocks the 20 volt down to 12 volt for all your stuff. This is the shaft. On his kayak, he had a 55-pound thrust Minn Kota saltwater remote stern drive. And so he can control this motor with the remote. But at the top of the shaft, you see that sleeve? It's called a sleeve or something else. I think a shaft sleeve is what you'd want to look up. They think a lot of them. They're about $10 a piece. Another thing that you can get to tie at the top of the shaft is underneath the bicycle seat. There is a clamp that fits around the pole that your seat fits on a bicycle, same thing. But basically, if you'll notice, on that shaft connected to that is a pulley. That's your first pulley that comes down in that pulley retract system that he's created. That's all I wanted to show in that picture.
Right on.
Okay. Let's see. I think I'm kind of winding down on these pictures. Any that we haven't looked at? I think that's it.
Yeah, I think we pretty much covered them all.
I don't mean to talk your ears off.
No. Great feedback. A lot of guys are loving great info. Everybody's always looking for tips and tricks and ways to rig things, and so to speak. So it's all good stuff, man.
Well, now that we finally got our first YouTube video done yesterday, and I think I sent it to you.
Yes, sir.
We're past the fear point, so now we have about 4 or 5 other videos that are already shot. We're going to piece those together and get those out. One's going to be on the pivot drive. One is going to be on the NK180 with the foot steer. One is on the pulley system and whatever type of stuff that we're putting on these kayaks. But again, you posted my information. Anybody has any questions, call. I'm new to this. The only reason I know this stuff is because we're doing so many installs.
Sure, which is great. A lot of people like that customization of rigging up their boats and things like that. And for those of you guys watching, I just dropped that YouTube link to the video Mark's referring to down in the chat for you guys, so you guys can check that out as soon as we're done here. It's a cool walkthrough of that those 2 kayaks for sure.
Well, the thing that there's a good and bad about that, he turned 80 years old. When he retired from being a NuCanoe dealer in Tampa, he developed heart problems. And he built this beautiful kayak and has not been able to put it on the water. And in that picture, by the way, or in that video, is the absolute perfect trailer of all time for kayaks. Did you see that trailer?
Yes, sir.
Oh, my goodness.
Yes,
I had trailer envy. In fact, he got sick and said, I'm selling the kayak. I said, well, what about the trailer? Well, my brother-in-law's keeping that. No, I would have bought that trailer.
Love it. All
Anyhow.
Good stuff, man. Well, Mark, I appreciate you taking the time and sharing some of your knowledge for the good folks, man. I think this is the longest unlimited podcast I've done so far. 1 hour and 20 so far. So
Wow.
All good stuff, man. Why don't you tell people again, your website, phone number, social medias, all that good stuff. So if somebody's in the Florida area how do they get in touch with you and all that good stuff, my friend?
Yeah, we're in the Florida Nature Coast, which is Crystal River, Homosassa. It's on the west coast, kind of center of Florida. Beach Basement Kayaks, beachbasement.com. At Beach Basement, we'll get you there too. Direct phone number to my cell is 813, Jesus Louise, 813-765-6295. I'm turning 70 this year, so first thing that goes is your money.
I hear you. And I just dropped that phone number in the chat for you guys. And, look these guys up and check them out. And be on the lookout on their YouTube channel as well that I also dropped in the chat. I know Mark's got some plans for that. And, it seems like a lot of you guys liked a lot of this rigging stuff we were talking tonight. And he's going to have some videos posted up. And, it's good. Like, I always check rigs out, and I always talk to people that rig up kayaks because you pick up little tidbits here and there,
Yeah,
and
one more thing.
It's great knowledge to have.
One more thing real quick. We always have 2 demos. We are like 2 minutes from a ramp. So anybody that has not been on a Motorized Unlimited or a pedal drive, whatever, I have them here. Call me. We'll take you out for a run. We're also I found out about a place called Homosassa, Florida, which is like the heaven, one of the hidden gems in Florida for fishing. If you ever go out Homosassa, Florida, it'll knock you silly. We're going to do a demo day out there. I'm going to see if I can't get Buzz down here. He's great with customers out on the water. And we're going to have 2 or 3 demos out and a display of about 3 or 4 kayaks with flags and everything, and be cooking hot dogs and stuff like that. So we'll post that on our website. On our website is great videos, information as well. Anything we can help you with would be our pleasure.
Awesome. Thank you, Mark, again, man. Wealth of knowledge, and definitely appreciate you sitting down, chatting tonight. For those of you guys that tuned in late, you could always go back, rewatch on the Facebook, the YouTube. This gets uploaded to all the major podcast platforms and now Waypoint TV. So you can go check it out. Just search NuCanoe's Unlimited and listen on your ride to work while you're in the garage rigging up your kayak or while you're on the water. So appreciate you guys. We're here every Tuesday night, 7 Central, 8 Eastern, 5 o'clock on the West Coast. Till next time, boys and girls, tight lines, smooth paddling.